Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Scint.
I'm Axion.
And we are continuing our discussion of the wonderful Hogfather by Terry Pratchett while we play through Pokemon Christmas.
Yep.
What is a percussionist's favorite aspect of literary analysis?
Oh dear. I know the answer to this, and I hate that I know it.
I actually thought of a second answer to it that would still be equally punny, but what were you going to say?
Symbolism.
Yes, the alternative one is story beats, but we are talking about symbols today. You seem upset.
I'm fine.
So you want me to drum up a little more support for my comment?
Oh, get on with it.
So, last time we talked about the power of belief in and of itself as a concept, but part of that is looking into what do you believe in? And that's where symbols come in. And honestly, what is a symbol? Like, we understand it as something that stands for something, but when does a symbol actually have more societal meaning than just being a symbol for, I don't know, it's just been there?
Well, a part of it, at the very least, is acceptance. Something that is widely accepted as a symbol has more power as a symbol. For example, everybody knows that a red octagon means stop, even if it doesn't have the word stop on it, like a stop sign. So, if you see a door with a red pentagon painted on it, even if it doesn't actually say stop, you know that you are supposed to wait there. If you see a red octagon on a website, you know that you need to stop scrolling and read whatever is next to it because it's meant to catch your attention, tell you to stop, and point you towards something important. These symbols have become universal to our culture and are instantly recognized as having this specific meaning.
Yeah, and honestly, I came up with this episode in the context of a single exchange between the wizards in this book. What's the mistletoe for? Because the wizards are all men. They actually ask, so we don't normally invite women to these things, right? No. So what's the mistletoe for? Because mistletoe, by common cultural tradition, is haha, kiss under the mistletoe. The wizards, who can barely tolerate each other's presence on a good day, have no intention of adhering to this mistletoe tradition. But it's still a holiday symbol, so they hang it up. But so, what's the mistletoe for? It's symbolic. Symbolic of what? Mistletoe. So the mistletoe is symbolic of itself. Essentially, it has no actual meaning in the context of their celebration. It's just there because it's part of the trappings. Essentially, it is a meaningless symbol that just says, I am a Christmas thing, Hogs Watch thing, so I should go here, regardless of what it actually means.
At which point, it has essentially lost its meaning, at least in this particular context, and has simply become an accessory. As you said, a part of the trappings. It has no meaning to itself anymore. The meaning that it once had culturally, which the wizards do recognize, is out of place in this particular place and time. And divorced of its proper context and without the proper not understanding, the proper association that it should have, which the wizards have just outright said that they are separating it from because it's not relevant to them. It alternates between being meaningless and becoming recursive. It's representative of itself.
And think of how that carries over to, like, Earth Christmas traditions. So, as mentioned before, we're Americans. What's a figgy pudding? Now, I know because I've watched way too much British Bake Off and other British cooking shows, but...
So, I have never had a figgy pudding. I have not watched enough British Bake Off to know what a figgy pudding is. My only understanding of it is in the version of We Wish You a Merry Christmas sung by the Muppets.
It's the second verse.
It's the second verse, and Gonzo is singing, "Bring us some figgy pudding," and Miss Piggy interrupts him because she thought he said piggy pudding. He explains, "No, figgy puddings, as in made of figs," and she backs off.
Yeah.
He does not explain what it is beyond it's made with figs. Therefore, that is literally all I know. It's a fig pudding.
It's actually not, because I actually know this from tasting history. At that time, figgy could have meant, like, any fruit. So it's just a fruit. It's just a fruit boiled pudding. But we sing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" very frequently in the States with no cultural understanding of what a figgy pudding is. The song itself is just an artifact. We sing these without really thinking through the meanings because we've never made figgy pudding here. Like, maybe a few people do, but it's not the thing here that it is across the pond. So holiday traditions often become just tradition with no meaning or reflection, like the mistletoe for the wizards. Or, in the case of the shop in the story, going to see the Hogfather to tell him what you want for Christmas, knowing you're not actually going to get what you want for Christmas because Mom and the shopkeeper have already made the arrangement of what you're going to get because it's what Mom can afford. Even though you know that the story says you should be able to get basically anything you want from the Hogfather. You know. So, meanings that become divorced from their origins. Like, go back to mistletoe. Mistletoe has its place in a lot of myths outside of just it's something we hang out for Christmas. Like, the main place I remember hearing it is in the Norse story of Loki and Balder.
Yep, that's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so to give an extremely truncated version of Norse mythology and an extensive series of myths, Balder is is the youngest son of Odin and Frigga, the two head gods of the Norse pantheon. And after a series of incidents involving one of their older sons, Thor, Frigga becomes extremely concerned about Balder's well-being and goes around the world asking every object, person, and being in existence to swear never to hurt Balder. Loki, because he is Loki, and because this is the point in the story, in the general part of Norse mythology, where Loki... I knew it was going to be quick attack. Blast them. Where Loki becomes more of an outright villain, rather than just a prankster and anti-hero.
He's a YouTube prankster.
Loki... I forget the specifics of how he did it, but he basically convinces Mistletoe to either not be present when Frigga goes around asking for the oath to never hurt Balder, or convinces the mistletoe to refuse to make the oath. I forget which one.
My very quick looking is that no plant grown on Earth could be used as a weapon. The one plant the spell does not reach is the mistletoe, as it does not grow out of the earth, but out of the tree's branches.
Right, yes, thank you. So, mistletoe is the one object, being, entity, person, thing on the whole world that has not specifically promised the Queen of the Gods that it will not harm her son. The gods, being the goofballs and violent pranksters that gods tend to be in classical mythology, decide that Baldur being invulnerable to everything in the world makes for the best game ever by standing him up at the end of the room while they're having drinks and feasts and having a grand old time in Valhalla, and chucking things at him for giggles, basically. And they're throwing sharpened rocks, they're throwing swords and axes, they're throwing everything they can get their hands on, they're throwing bits of wood, they're throwing dangerous animals, they're throwing everything you can think of at Baldur, and it's just a grand old time because everything made that promise to Frigga. Nothing can hurt him. So there's another member of the Court of Valhalla who is a blind god whose name I cannot recall this time. Do you have it?
Not offhand.
Okay, I was wondering if it might still be in that article you looked up.
Well, the article I looked up is called "Why Do We Kiss Under the Mistletoe?" So it just mentions the plant itself. It doesn't mention the entire story.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Anyway, this god is blind, and he is sitting in the corner kind of being grumpy because he's blind. So he can't play the game. Because he can't see to aim anything he wants to throw at Baldur. So Loki's like, hey, I'll give you a hand. I'll be your eyes. I'll give you a thing. And here, you can have this twig. And I'll point you and get your aim all lined up, and then you can throw and you can partake in the game. What this poor guy didn't know is that the twig that Loki gave him was a sprig of mistletoe. And being the only thing that could hurt Baldur in the entire world, it strikes him in the heart like an arrow and instantly kills him. This starts a whole huge chain of events that eventually leads to Ragnarok, the Norse mythology end of the world.
Hod,
thank you. I knew it started with an H.
But yeah, so according to the article, after mistletoe basically was used to kill Baldur, Frigg declared that it was not made it basically become just a plant of peace, and promised that anyone who passed under it would get a kiss. So that's where that came from. Another Christmas tradition lifted from non-Christian traditions.
So, like pretty much all of the Christian traditions.
So I said another, but yeah. So I just thought that was an interesting thing to look at, of that even in the context of Discworld, they're noting that, wait, this doesn't make sense, because we're never going to do this. And this is where I get to make you groan. We didn't use mistletoe. We had found a little frog plushie called the Mistletoad that we hung up. It was just a little frog with a Santa hat.
Why am I not surprised?
I don't know, but I had nothing to do with this. Mistletoe predated my love of puns.
I blame your dad, then.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not really sure what else to add here. I just thought it was an interesting thing to note, and yeah.
I'm not sure what else to add here either. I've kind of lost the thread of things, kind of got distracted with the recursive series of explanations and discussions.
Yep, it happens. But yeah, we will see you next time.
See ya.
Later.